I saw my first Maynard Dixon up in Scottsdale in the museum.
Yes.
I couldn't believe how flat everything was. Like, I mean, obviously there's texture there, but like his shadows in the mountains just
well,
so
and it
flat.
depends too when he did things. So
Right.
like the one you're looking at there is 1922, a
Okay.
little thicker, heavier.
Yeah.
If you look straight up and above on top, that one's 1943, and that's the Catalina Mountains, and you can see how flat that one really is. He changed over his time frame.
Right.
Like, I think all artists kind of do that, right?
Yeah. So he came from like an illustration background.
Yeah,
Right. So
completely.
he's thinking flat and then becomes more of a painter, and then everything, all the texture comes in.
Yeah, actually, it was really more. We have Matt Ryder on, by the way. We've already started our podcast, so now you can get nervous again.
Right. Yeah. Thanks.
Matt goes strictly from talking, having a good time, to tensed up, and
Exactly.
no, nothing changes on this, Matt. But so what he does, we're talking about a little bit about Maynard Dixon because I've got some in the office. Is that he's influenced by the Pan Pacific exposition in 1915,
Right.
and he sees all these impressionists, right, from
Okay.
Europe, and he's like, oh, look at all that color and look at that thick paint, and so he changes his whole palette
Right.
for like 2 or 3 years, and then he kind of goes from that impressionistic to post-impressionistic, and then like in this one in 22, he's starting to get a little flatter, and then by the time he gets into the 40s, late 30s, 38 or 39, he starts getting really flat,
Right.
and his palette changes.
Yeah. Yeah, because he moved around a lot as well, right? So, I mean, he's got all those...
So, he lived in San Francisco most of his life.
Okay.
He's from Fresno, but he spent, months upon months in different places. Hopi for 6 months, Apache Reservation, and the Navajo Reservation for 6 months in 1915. 6 months, 7 months actually in Taos in 1931. So yeah, he would go places for long periods of time.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. He's like of the Southwest painters that, like, I'm here because I'm influenced so much by so many of those painters, and I got his book. And I was blown away. And like I said, I was saying before, seeing his work in person, I just couldn't believe how different it was to, the reproductions and the images. No matter how good those reproductions are, seeing it in person is something else. So, yeah, every time I see one, I'm just kind of standing in front of it for a while, just like...
How did he do it?
Yeah, studying,
Well, and you look at that one from 22, you can even see where he's let the canvas come through, right?
Yeah.
You can see some of the white coming through. He does that. He did that purposely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, just like a dry brush going across.
Yeah, and that would have been done, again, for those who are watching this on YouTube, I'll try to get you some photos, but that would have been done, plein air. So that's a plein air painting for sure.
It's a big plein air painting
I
as
know,
well.
isn't it?
Right.
I know. And it probably only took him maybe, I don't know for a fact, but maybe 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that's about right. There's not too much in the way of like messing around with those brush strokes. So he's just laying them down and leaving them. But yeah.
Yep. I think he kind of knew when he was like...
Yeah, he knew what he was doing. Right?
Yeah.
So,
it would be fun to watch that, to see somebody. I'm sure you have that. I haven't watched you paint.
Right.
But I would like to see that, actually.
Well, this is the thing now. I mean, it's just it's so easy to access information and see people paint and, workshops and videos and all of this stuff. But, these guys, everybody is influenced by, like, there's so little known about, like, their actual technique. You know, there's no videos of them painting in the field. And if there are, it's, just very, very short black and white clips or whatever else. So, yeah, I mean, the access to knowledge now is nuts. So, I mean, now is absolutely the best time to learn and whatever else. But, it looks to things like this and trying to work it out. This is where you see the artists like up at the painting like this in the galleries and the museums, just trying to figure it all out. But yeah.
Anytime somebody comes in and I see them like 3 inches away from the photo, from the painting,
that's nice,
or from the side of it,
right?
I always go, "Oh, so you're an artist?"
Yeah, exactly.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, how'd you know?" I was like,
"Yeah, there's a bit of a giveaway."
It's a real giveaway. Yeah. But that's okay. I love that when they come in, and especially if and you'll probably be doing it before you leave.
Yeah.
You'll be right up to Maynard's paintings, and you'll be looking, okay, how did he do that?
Yeah. I mean, so for me coming here, it's since I arrived in Scottsdale, I mean, there's just so many galleries and museums, and my access to art is zero pretty much in Dubai, as in the art that I'm really interested in.
Right.
So it's only when I travel that I get to kind of go in and do those observations. Yeah, so I mean, it's just been amazing since I've been here. Yeah. Like everyone's sick of me in the galleries because I keep going in. Like after I finish my workshops, or after I finish a plein air session, I'm just going back to the galleries and just standing in front of it and staring. Yeah, no, it's amazing. And there's so much here.
Oh yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, I mean, especially Tucson, Scottsdale. I think we're probably kind of the hotbeds of a lot of this stuff. Santa Fe as well, but different though. It's a little different, and they, I don't know. I think there's more actually in Tucson and Scottsdale, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I literally just arrived in Tucson this morning, so
this is your first time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think when you're coming in on seeing those Catalina Mountains and the saguaros?
I mean, the drive in was amazing. This is the whole thing about this area, and I kind of knew before I arrived that it was going to be everywhere was going to be a painting, but. I mean, it's like, is it the Pikachu mountains that you come in from? Bacacha. Yeah. Okay. Not Pikachu. That's from something else.
That's a different one. That's the orange mountain with the little eyes and smile face.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like passing that on the right, and then you've got these snow-capped mountains on the left, and just everywhere. And I'm driving, but I want to be stopped. I want to be painting, and it's just literally everywhere you go. It's just there's a painting, and it's. Yeah, that's amazing.
So what's going to blow your mind is from here, about 2.5 minutes is a national park with running water, big trees, millions of saguaros, and it's just right here. It's one of the greatest natural wonders called Sabino Canyon. So when you leave here, you'll be, I'm sure, heading up there for a few minutes.
Yeah, well, I've got my painting gear in the car, so I'm planning to do some painting.
Oh yeah,
kind of later this afternoon, and then try and get that kind of afternoon light.
Today's going to be a good day too, because I can just tell the way the sky is. Mm-hmm. There's a very strong possibility it's going to kind of break, and toward the evening will be just like crazy. Yeah, like really crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I follow your Instagram and see all your Arizona sunsets and Tucson sunsets and stuff.
Right.
I mean, it's just, so I'll be sticking around for that today. Yeah, I mean, even just like in Scottsdale, just every day. Well, not every day. We had one day with rain, which was, I didn't sign up for that. I'm not sure where that came from.
It's rare.
Yeah, but like the clouds you get there, and you get these bubble clouds. So like Maynard Dixon or Edgar Payne's paintings, you just get these bubble.
Yeah. Or Ed Mel's.
Or Ed Mel's, exactly. Yes. And you just don't see those where I am.
So Matt, just so that people know that are listening, is a new artist for me. And this is literally the first time we've ever met. I think have we talked by phone? I think.
No.
It's all been like text and email. Yeah. So it's kind of fun to... I knew what your face looked like because I went to your website to see who I'm dealing with. But it can happen. You can meet people through different medias that are unique. In our case, I'd done a podcast with Plein Air Magazine, right?
Yeah.
And then you had reached out to me, I think, from hearing that, right?
Well, I've known the gallery for a while. So that podcast was kind of what made me do the push and actually get in touch. Yeah. Just hearing you talk about actually how you take on new artists, I was like, let's give it a go and see see how that pans out. But I mean, the reason that I really started following the gallery was, you represent some of my favorite artists here. So, Glenn Dean, Josh Elliott, Matt Smith. Yeah. These are guys that I have been following for a very long time.
Icons now.
Exactly. So, for me, I mean, this is the only gallery I'm with in the US, and I really wanted it to be a gallery that I felt was going to be important. So So hearing that podcast and then hearing how you take on artists, it was just like, all right, let's give it a go. And then basically, once we kind of went backwards and forwards with everything, this whole trip just came about because of that podcast, really. So,
and you're teaching in Scottsdale?
Yeah. So I've been. So once we'd kind of agreed that we were going to bring the work, I looked into shipping and then the cost of actually coming over and bringing the work, which it was pretty close, you know. So I figured if I could do some teaching while I was out here, then I could, pay for the trip and actually meet a lot more people and everything else. So I got in touch with Scottsdale.
Yes. This is the Scottsdale artist?
Scottsdale Art School. Yeah. Again, there's so many great teachers there.
Yeah, like Ray Roberts.
Right. So just take a chance and see if they'd be interested. Because, I'm coming from somewhere that's very far away from Western artists, He
lives in Dubai, by the way.
Yeah, so it was a long shot. Like all of it was a long shot, but everything just kind of fell into place. So I got a week's teaching at Scottsdale, and I did another workshop with Raymar Panels. Mm-hmm. So they make the panels that I paint on. Just amazing company based in Phoenix. So we did a 2-day flower painting workshop with them, which filled pretty much straight away. And then Scottsdale, we did a 4-day desert landscapes. So nice. I was doing a combination of the landscapes that I'm painting out in the Middle East, and then we also did some kind of local landscapes as well. So
have you painted your first saguaro now?
I did it yesterday.
Yes. Did you bring it with you, by the way?
I did not. No.
I want to see that.
So I'm planning to build that into a bigger painting.
Yeah.
So
and did you find it challenging, by the way?
So the color palette is definitely different to what I'm used to. I mean, it's most of my palette I'm able to use here, but the reds in particular, I've had to bring in a slightly darker red. Just some of the rocks and everything else. But the saguaros, yeah, I mean, I painted it backlit, so we had nice. It's trying not to get all of those individual little prickles and spikes coming off, and trying to make it look authentic. So
yeah,
I mean, the good thing with that is that I'm doing that a lot with the flower paintings I'm doing. So it's just, it shouldn't matter really what it is that you're painting, but of course, I mean, it does. But I mean, the biggest thing for me has been the color palette shift. Just introducing a slightly darker red. Everything else I think is okay, but the red's been a problem. So
yeah, the thing I see on people that don't get saguaros right, well, one, they don't look at them. They don't come and paint.
Right.
I mean, I think if you really want to paint saguaros, come and see one.
Yeah.
Don't just take a photo and look at a photo. And they try to make them too symmetrical.
Yeah.
They're not symmetrical at all.
It was all over the place.
Yeah, their arms are completely asymmetrical, rat holes. And, if you want to see what a saguaro really looks like in a painting, pull up a Matt Smith saguaro.
Yeah.
That'll do it. Or actually, Josh Elliott did one of the great ones that was on the cover of Western Art Collector. That was just like, okay, that's what a saguaro looks like if you're going to paint it.
So Matt's really interesting, actually, Matt Smith, because I've not met him, but again, I've followed his work for a while, and he's a really good example of somebody that you see the color palette and just like, okay, yeah, he's got that exactly right. Just that, the color of the saguaro, or the distant mountains that you get here, where it's a little bit darker than you think it's going to be. So, you think distant mountains, you think light blue, whereas he puts in this kind of darker purple, and it's like, oh, before I'd actually seen the landscape here, I thought maybe, he was exaggerating it or whatever else. But
right.
Nope. No, it's like,
yeah.
I mean, it's like plein air painting is so important, it's, so I think having this time here, with the intention of painting some Arizona landscapes, like, I mean, for a start, it adds authenticity to what I'm doing, but it gets my color palette correct, because without being here and seeing that, I wouldn't have known I needed to make that shift.
Right.
Or I'd have thought, if I was working from, photos or images that I hadn't taken, which, I obviously try not to do, but who knows how modified those images have been, so whether they've gone through a filter or whatever else. So you've got to go through that filter yourself, and you have to, edit your own images, which of course I try to do through plein air painting. But I've also taken probably 500 photos since I've been out here so far, with more coming today, I'm sure. So,
yeah, lots more, I'm sure. Well, Matt, one of the things he does specifically, he just spends massive amount of time in the desert painting.
I do.
Yeah, and that's the key. And I know you do the same when you're in UAE, and I'd like to talk about that. Let's go all the way to the beginning, because you're a British citizen, or
that's right.
British born, and you're still a British citizen.
Yep.
And so where did you grow up?
So I grew up right in the middle of England, pretty much.
Yeah.
So a place called Evesham. It's literally
Evesham.
Evesham.
Are you kidding me? It's Evesham.
Here's a fun fact: it's part of Worcestershire, where if Americans and Worcestershire sauce, there's a real thing there. But the correct pronunciation is Worcestershire.
Worcestershire,
not Worcestershire, which I hear a lot.
Yeah.
So anyway, I grew up there, and there were rolling hills and green, a lot of green. I mean, I spent most of my I didn't leave the UK until was around 19, and I went to live in Cyprus. My sister moved out there, so my family moved out there.
What was your mom and dad? What were they doing? What did they do?
So my dad's a builder. My mom was, she was looking after us for most of her life, and then they kind of restarted their life, just took a complete chance and moved to Cyprus. I think they must have been around mid-40s something when they went over there and started a bar. So opened up a bar there. I went over with them. So I was like 19 at the time. Mm-hmm. It wasn't for me. So I moved back to the UK pretty soon after I was out there.
So when you were growing up as a little kid, like primary school, were you interested in art?
Yeah. No, I loved it. And I think that's all it takes. It's just, you have to enjoy it. So, I think there's that whole, every kid enjoys drawing. It's just the ones who really, really enjoy it continue to do it through their lives. So, like I had a big stop after. So I studied in college. I took art, like an art foundation course. Did that for 2 years, and then basically just stopped drawing, stopped painting. Didn't have a real interest for about 10 years or so. But like up until that point, my entire life had been art. Like I loved it.
Did you win contests, or did they have little things in school, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, like in school there'd be the odd little competition and stuff. I think America does that a little better than the UK.
Right, I was wondering about that.
Yeah. So I was definitely always kind of recognized by my schoolmates and all this sort of stuff.
They all said you were the artist, right?
Yeah. And it's like if anyone wanted a little cartoon drawing of them, or
right.
I did, like when I was really young, I remember I did this calendar. Like, I must have been 10 or 11.
Yeah.
I did this calendar, which I sold in school because everybody wanted my drawings. So I was doing like just a cartoon thing. So, it's always been there. Like 100% it's always been there. But I had a big break in the middle.
But you started to do art school in college for a couple of years?
Yeah.
And what was your hope at that time? To become a fine artist or illustrator?
So illustration was more my interest at that time. Mm-hmm. So although I didn't necessarily know exactly what that meant, it's just like I wanted to be an illustrator. I wanted to do book covers, this sort of thing. But, it was at a time when that digital art was kind of really coming into fruition. Mm-hmm. And so it was like that crossover, whereas I like to draw and I like to paint. So I did, when I got back into art after college, I did actually go back into digital. So I picked up Photoshop, now Procreate, learned to draw and paint in that because the illustration work, which I was then doing, so I was picking up some small illustrations. It made sense to do everything digitally because the first one I did was watercolor. So this is how I realized I needed to go to digital, because I did a watercolor and they're like, oh, we need an adjustment in the color here and we need an adjustment in color here. I was like, I'm going to have to repaint this. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
Whereas like as soon as I switched to digital, it was like, okay, you want a color adjustment or you want this figure moved over here or, something, then it just made it a lot easier.
And so after you did the 2 years of school, was that in England?
In Evesham. So it was my local school. So
yes.
I don't want to big this up at all. It was very much like a small foundation school.
That's still studying.
It was studying, but we didn't have. There was no, and I think it's similar here, although it is changing. There was no like painting instruction or anything like that. It was very much like you do what you want here, express yourself in this or express yourself in this, and you could go down whichever route you wanted to go down. But there was no solid like here's how you paint, or here's how you draw anatomy, or here's none of that existed. So all of that I'm self-taught.
Right. And so why did you put down the paint brushes for 10 years?
I think it was just, a lot of it had to do with the tutor that I had in college. She, I think she was just at this stage in her own career where things hadn't gone so well, and she was teaching at effectively a community college,
right?
And just frustrated, and
you were getting negative self-talk from her.
Yeah, exactly. So when I left, it was just like, well, I'll just go and make some money. I can't make money with art, that's what I've been told,
right?
So I went and just got a job, which I did for a long time.
What was that job?
So I went through a few. So I worked in a call center. This is very unglamorous, by the way.
No, but that shows the road that you had to do to get where you are today, sitting in front of me in this gallery,
right?
From Dubai.
So I was still in the call center when I left the UK. So I'd worked my way into a management position, very exciting in a call center. And so I'd met my girlfriend at the time, who was South African, and her family were living in Dubai. So her dad was in IT security, a specialist. And this was back in 2005. So, basically her visa was expiring and she was like, do you want to go to Dubai? And so much of my story that I realized, it's just like I had an opportunity and I was like, let's just do that. Yeah. It's like I could very clearly see that there was nothing, exciting happening. So I thought, just let's give it a chance somewhere else.
Right.
So I'd never been to Dubai, but I Googled images. It looked pretty nice. Yeah. So just went over. I didn't have a job. She didn't have a job, and we just moved. Stayed with her family for a while. Both found jobs. So I then moved into recruitment, which in Dubai is a very big industry. So in 2005, Dubai was booming.
Yes.
So I was basically doing architecture recruitment, and that kind of that picked up my interest again in art, because I was recruiting these architects and I was seeing their portfolios. And in Dubai, certainly at that time, a lot of the buildings were very, very unusual.
Yeah,
they were looking for highly skilled concept artists. So they weren't looking for CAD drawings in the portfolios. So I was looking at these portfolios of architects who were doing these amazing sketches.
And amazing architects, I'm sure. Because there was a lot of money to be spent on this.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was in-house, so I was working for one of the biggest design companies. So we were getting the best architects there. So that's actually what kind of piqued my interest back in art again, was going through all those portfolios. So I started just kind of drawing and sketching on the side while I was still working there, started to build my interest again. And actually, I probably shouldn't be sharing this, but I set up a business doing caricature. So that was how I started making money in art. And this was back, so we're 2007 probably at this point, 2008. So pretty soon after I'd got back. I'd separated from my girlfriend, stayed in Dubai. So I was on my own and just kind of doing my own thing there. So I was doing this caricature business, and it was out earning my salary. So I was like, okay, this seems to be a pretty good position to be in to maybe make a transition to a full-time artist, even though, in hindsight, it wasn't what I wanted to be doing. But at the time, it seemed much better than. And
these were drawings that you were doing?
So drawings, I was doing like live events. So I was going to like weddings and
capture the moment.
Exactly.
With a sense of humor as well.
Yeah. So they're like live sketches.
Right.
And honestly, like when I look back on it, there was no better way for me to hone my drawing ability again than I was literally drawing. I'd go to an event and I'd draw 30 or 40 people, in a few hours. And that's 30 or 40 sketches. When would you ever sit at home and do 30 or 40 quick sketches? So I got back to drawing very quickly. So it was like 10 years out, and then we just built it all up. And I had some savings from the other job, and like I said, I was out earning my desk job.
Right.
So I packed it in, started a business properly, got a license and sorted out my visa and everything else. And then, did that. So I was, doing event caricature, and then doing some illustration. So I started, like, Dubai is one of those places that if you are good at something, you get carried quite quickly to, like, oh, so you draw, you can do illustration. Oh, you can do like graphic facilitation, you can do these things. So I went down all these crazy paths and was making some pretty good money while I was doing it. And did some book cover illustration, which is what I kind of dreamt about doing, when I was younger. So I had all these opportunities, and then, just kind of got bored with it. So I knew that there was more to the craft than just what I was doing. And the more time I spent in the desert, the more I started to look to paintings of the deserts, and eventually, as it would, I got led to the artists who are here. Edgar Payne was one of the first books I bought, Maynard Dixon, and then just started slowly but surely getting into that, and then got myself a very basic kind of plein air kit. Figured let's do this. Like I wasn't really planning to make any money with it. It's just like I wanted to have some, even though I was working creatively, have some kind of creative outlet. Because
was it the desert that really called you?
So so the mountains. I mean, when you say the desert here, you get deserts and mountains, and it's kind of the same. In Dubai, in the UAE, you say deserts and you think like, the empty quarter, all this like, so that doesn't hold, it's never really held much appeal. What I'm drawn to is rock, big boulders, big mountains, with a strip of desert at the front. So, just all these kind of interesting shapes and structures and,
that's the Arabian desert you were painting?
So there's a few mountain ranges that go through. Like the biggest one is the Hajar mountain range. So it runs through like Oman and Ras Al Khaimah, which is one of the other Emirates where I'm always painting. So they're my main mountains. And then Fujairah has some incredible scenery. Like in Dubai itself, there's not really.
It's a big metropolitan city with 3 million people?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really paint buildings. So there's not much appeal inside the city, but once you go out, much like here, once you just take a little drive out, there's so much.
And people probably aren't out painting the desert, right? Is that just
people aren't out hiking the desert either? I mean, it's there's just nobody out there. It's nuts.
Just empty.
Just empty.
Yeah.
So now, I've been painting the deserts there for maybe 6 or 7 years, I guess. And when I first started, like I would go out and not see a soul. Now you get the occasional hiker who comes through, and the odd group who comes through with like their their speaker on their shoulder, and it's like music is blaring. It's like it's coming, but I've had it pretty good for the last few years of just being out there on my own.
And the people that are coming that you see, are those tourists?
So some tourists, some not so many tourists. Occasionally you'll see one come through, because tourists who come to Dubai don't know of what's outside of the city.
Yeah, they want to go skiing.
Yeah. Skiing in the desert, which get onto that if you like. But so there's hiking groups which kind of set up, and I think the more people like myself who are out and then sharing these images, it's like people are understanding there's really something there. So there's a lot of fitness enthusiasts out in Dubai who would be gym bunnies and this sort of stuff, and once they realize they actually can get out and hike, they're going out a bit.
It's a very stark desert. It's more like the Mojave, right? I mean, it's not.
It's
not tons of plants and things like that.
So in the mountains, there's there's a fair amount of plant life. I mean, it's certainly not like it is here,
right?
But we got like acacia trees, and we get some cactus, but I mean nothing like here.
Mm-hmm. They have vipers there.
So we get there's a Arabian viper. I've never seen one. So the only thing I have seen is a scorpion, and that was when I moved a rock to. I have this awning on the side of my Jeep which I paint under, and I moved a rock to put it on to hold down the awning.
We can take care of that here. No problem.
Yeah, I'm sure.
If you wait a week, we can show you a rattlesnake, maybe even a Gila monster pretty soon.
Right. Yeah, I'd like to see one. Maybe not a rattlesnake, but a Gila monster. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you'd like to see the rattlesnake.
Yeah, I'd see it, not paint next to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've seen nothing since I've been here. I've seen a few lizards running around.
Yeah, well, this time they should be hibernated, right?
Right.
But they're just all kind of starting to come out. This will be the week that they come out. So we're at really basically March 1st. And they start to...
Right, so tomorrow they're out.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, actually probably today because of the temperature is going to hit.
Oh, perfect. And so I'll get out there and see a couple of rattlesnakes.
Yeah. Well, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're lucky. So you start painting the desert. And this is 207 maybe that you started?
Yeah, so I'd say I started taking it like the painting seriously around probably 2010. But I did my first plein air paintings probably around 2007. So I only started taking it seriously when I realized that the level of some of the plein air painters who are out there.
The quality.
The level, the quality. I kind of had a bit of a life-changing trip when I went to Ireland, actually. So my wife who I met in Dubai, she's Irish.
Yes.
And from Dublin, and there's a place about an hour and a half outside of Dublin called Wexford, and they do a Plein Air Festival, biggest in Europe. So I just kind of started painting, and we had a trip coming up to Ireland, and I saw this was, it kind of fit in with the trip.
Right.
So at that point, I'd never painted with anybody else. You know, I've never seen another artist painting.
Right.
I've never been to a gallery and seen a plein air painting. You know, it's just like I had this idea which I was running with, but I wasn't at a very good level, you know, because I just didn't know. Like, for me, they looked okay. But, you know, it's the same. What you get elevated when you see mastery, better. Right?
Yeah.
So we went to this festival. We went to Wexford, and it was like 9-day festival. And just, I painted plein air for... It's 8 or 9 days
with other people.
Right. So I was doing 2 or 3 paintings a day. There's 200 artists there. So I mean, it's mixed level, but there were some very high level artists there, and they were making a living from it. They were selling their plein air studies. They were teaching, so they were doing workshops there, and literally just traveling around painting. And I was like, this seems like a pretty good deal. So I mean, even during that week, I felt my work go up. I mean, in terms of, again, going back to color palette, is very different what I was painting there to when I got back to Dubai.
Pure green in Ireland.
But that trip, so I think it was maybe around 2010, maybe a little bit later, but it just lit a fire under me. And like I got back to Dubai and I started teaching. So I was like, well, you know, nobody is doing this here, and there were no painters. So I was like, let's see if there's a market for it. So I went back and I advertised a desert painting workshop, like a 2-day workshop.
Wow, a first, I'm sure, ever.
Exactly, and it filled within 2 or 3 days.
Wow,
I was like, okay, that's all right. So everyone had to go and get their kit. You know, or they were all ordering these pochade boxes online and waiting 2 or 3 weeks for them to deliver. So everyone turned up, and we're in the mountains of Fujairah.
Yeah.
And there's me, just like, so now I've got to teach you guys. So did my first demo, but everyone's there with just their shiny gear and their brand new paints, and just like, not knowing what to expect. And nor did I really. But
and the group that was there, was it mainly men, or was it a mixture?
There was one man, and the rest were women, and it was a mix of locals, few expats. So it was a real mix. So after the first day, I had 2 drop out. So because it was intense, you know, it's like we were doing 2 paintings, 2 locations in the mountains. I tried to keep it like as easy as possible. Like, we weren't too far from the restrooms, and you know, we could park, and the hike was like 5 minutes. Like, when I'm going into the mountains myself, I'm hiking for an hour, and you know, there's no restroom. But I knew the crowd I was gonna get. So so that was great, and you know, it just went down really well. So that's when I kind of started making money with the work. Sold a couple of demos, and then just grew from there, and now I'm doing regular workshops there. So
how often do you do the workshops there?
So the season is limited because obviously summer
heat.
I guess it's kind of like here. You know, it's just so my workshops can only be from kind of the very end of October up to really at a push mid-March, but now the temperature's climbing up there. Right. So so I try and do 2 a year, so and they're 2 or 3 day workshops, and then during the summer and during the rest of the year, I'll do some stuff in my studio. So I'll do like the flower painting workshops. I'll do some from photos. So I have a decent sized studio, so I can accommodate a few people. But I've also been teaching a lot on Zoom, which is one of the other reasons that I was able to fill my workshops here.
Mm-hmm. And do you like doing that?
So I kind of do like it, actually, because it's
easier as far as
I mean, there's no cleanup or anything, and you know, so I really enjoy the demo aspect of teaching. I think any painter they want a demo, right? I mean, it's just like, just get to paint, and I enjoy kind of talking through that process, and I feel that actually some of my better paintings are sometimes demos because I'm slowing down and I'm really kind of following my own process.
Right.
And with Zoom, it's just demo. I'm obviously talking through my entire process, but there's, don't need to do that whole kind of go around every student, which, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy, and I think there's a lot to be taken and a lot to learn from that, because you get that one-on-one. But they're quick, like 3-hour sessions, and people get the recording, and it's just like it's a burst of information. So yeah.
And where are those people coming from that are on Zoom?
Arizona, strangely enough.
That is strange.
So
why do you think that is?
I don't know.
You must have made some kind of
I think
inroads in Arizona somehow.
Yeah, so
maybe through the podcast you did on Plein Air?
The podcast, I think, had some impact.
Because you did one yourself.
Yeah, so I did one.
I didn't listen to it, by the way, specifically.
Okay.
Well, because I don't want to, I want to learn.
Yeah, I think that's the best way. That's the best way.
I try to do that on any podcast that I do. If somebody's done a podcast, I try not to listen or be influenced, because I want to know the real story, how I see it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So I did. Yeah, so I did the Eric Rhodes podcast, the Plein Air Podcast, and I did another one with a gentleman called Carl Olson. It's the Artful Painter.
Oh yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah.
Gentle guy, just beautiful interviewer, just really, really, really nice. So I think a lot of my kind of inroad to the US came through those two podcasts, and then I've won a few competitions through the Plein Air Salon, both floral and landscape. So it's been the last couple of years, my presence in the US has increased. Yeah. So I think a lot of people were kind of getting to know my work, and then looking to see if I was teaching, and then I was having these affordable Zoom classes, which the time, like, we're 11 hours different, so it's it's manageable. So I was doing my demos kind of later in the evening, which is just when everyone's getting up here. So and then they got the recording as well, so anyone who couldn't tune in was able to get that. So it's been an interesting couple of years. But I mean, for me, this is like, the US is such a good market, for me, for everyone. I think there's a lot to be had here. There's a lot of galleries here. There's a lot of collectors here. There's a lot of painters here. But that's a great thing, because I can come into a gallery like this, and I'm walking around, and I'm not seeing everything as competition. It's just like, it's just amazing to see so much some great work. Whereas like in the U.A.E, there's no representational galleries. There's nothing there.
There's no galleries at all.
There are galleries, but in terms of representational,
it's mainly more abstract, modern art.
Yeah. So
and there's 7 Emirates in the UAE.
That's right.
Yep,
that's right.
And Dubai City, or Dubai, I guess, is one of the Emirates, right?
Yeah. So Abu Dhabi is the capital.
Yes.
So that's just down the road, and there is like, they have the Louvre there, which is opened just a few years ago, which is actually, it is tied to the one in Paris. So they do get collections coming through, but of course, I can't show my work in there, not yet. But yeah, so Abu Dhabi feels like it's pushing a little bit more. Dubai does have some cultural districts, and there is a cultural authority, but in terms of actual representational work, it's either seen as too traditional, or it's they haven't caught up yet. So so all of my sales are commissions, or through my website or social media. There is a gallery there who I was showing with, but it's the work it wasn't selling. It just didn't fit. So because it was so different to anything else,
I'm sure they people have no clue, right?
Yeah, so they couldn't get collectors coming in. It's a very strange art market, and a very strange place to be a representational painter, which is why, like, there's so much influence in my work from artists who are here. And this is where, for me, I feel it's just such a good market. Yeah.
And so the art market in Dubai, let's just say Dubai, because that's where you probably know the best. It's almost all contemporary, the art galleries as well. Yep. And are there a lot of art galleries?
Yeah, so there's a couple of, I mean, there's not a huge amount. I mean, there's probably the same in the whole of Dubai as there is in downtown Scottsdale Main Street.
It's like still a lot. But there's 3.5 million people in Dubai, something like that, maybe?
You've got some good facts on Dubai, yeah.
Yeah, well, you want to understand where you live and what it is.
No, that's right. So,
and it's a bicultural thing in the sense of you have a lot of wealthy people, but there's poverty too there, right?
Yeah, I mean, so the poverty there isn't like it is. Say, I mean, in India, you have that extreme wealth, or you have extreme poverty.
Yes,
like there is very much a middle ground in Dubai, which because it's such a big expat community. So you've got people like myself who have lived there for a long time. I mean, I've been there, like I had a 2-year break in the middle, but 15 years near enough I've been there. And don't get me wrong, when I first moved, I was very much kind of trying to live that Dubai lifestyle. But now, I've got 2 kids.
Right.
I have a career there. We've bought a house. We're just living that middle of the road lifestyle, and that is there because there are so many expats. But there is poverty there. I mean, certainly a lot of the construction workers, this sort of thing. It'd be very low paid, and they're in labor camps, and they're sending all their money back to their home country, and that from that side of it, it's not poverty like they're living on the street in India. But,
because there's low crime in Dubai, right?
A very low crime. Yeah. But then there is extreme wealth as well.
Right. So, it's one of the richest places in the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Where you'd think for an art market,
right?
It'd be a good place to have a
gallery,
right?
And maybe it is if it's the right art.
Exactly. So there's one district in particular. I mean, it's in an industrial area of the UAE or in Dubai, called Al Sakal Avenue, and it's like a focused area of galleries. So there's maybe 12 or 13 galleries there, along with a couple of cafes, and they do like cultural evenings and this sort of stuff. But every gallery that you go into, it's conceptual work, or it's abstract work, or you might see the occasional like local or Arab artists, a lot of kind of calligraphy, this sort of stuff that's there. But no, I mean it's an untapped market.
Think. How about historic, work, Arabic work that would be in there?
Yeah, so there's very little at all.
It's so interesting.
I mean, Dubai itself is, the U.A.E. is 50 years old.
Yeah, it's not old at all.
So unfortunately, a lot of their history got lost. When they were through that rapid growth that they went through, they were knocking down a lot of historical areas, areas of importance. There are, if you go to there's a district called Bastikia, which is you would get a few buildings which have like the old wind tower air conditioning, just like no air conditioning, but they just have those holes and the pipes coming out the side just to kind of cool the buildings. So there's a few buildings like that. And there's a couple of historical forts which are still around towards Abu Dhabi. And the creek itself is, the creek that runs through, that's where Dubai kind of grew from. That's historic, but not historic like, European history or even the US history. So yeah, I mean, all of that art is lost really. So,
and have you traveled throughout the UAE?
Yeah. I think I've certainly been to every emirate. I've painted in every emirate. I've made a conscious effort of that. So I've shown, Sharjah, which is our closest emirate, they have, they have the Sharjah Arts Museum, which does show, not really from the UAE though, it's historical art, but it's from the region. So, the Gulf. So they would take pieces from Iran and, Egyptian artists who would show their, historical work. But anyway, so I'm a member of the Fine Arts Society in the Emirates, which it's not as big a deal as it sounds, but it's nice to be associated with a Fine Arts Society. But then they have a group show every year in the museum. So I showed in the museum, and that museum does make a conscious effort to try and push art.
Representational art?
Mainly representational. Yeah. So within that fine art show, I was still the only landscape painter.
The only one?
The only one. So everything else, I mean, there was some portraits, some figurative work, but still pretty abstract. I mean, we're not, it's not high quality, it's not high quality realism that you see here. Yeah, let's put it that way.
And the people that are buying art there, are they mainly locals?
So, yeah, I mean, there is the people buying my paintings are mainly expats. So I do sell a few to locals, but my market is hikers, wealthy hikers who, want something large for their walls. And this is also something that Dubai does do well. It has big walls in its houses. So you have villas and you have apartments, and the apartments have a lot of wall space. Right. So it does mean that I can paint big. So I'm selling to expats. Some of the smaller pieces, especially florals and this sort of stuff, would be kind of my collector base of expats. And then just every so often a local will come across my work. But it's very much, the locals are not separated, because there is some integration, but you have the expat community and you have the local community. And it tends to be locals will buy local work, expats will buy expat work. So yeah, it's a mix. But and
you said you paint big. How big can you paint studio-wise?
So my largest is probably, it's got to be just over 6 foot by 5 foot.
Yeah, that's
pretty large.
Yeah.
And that was a commission. So I mean, these days I'm tending to do like 18 by 24 is a good size. I'm really enjoying, especially for the florals. For landscapes, I do feel like they should be bigger. Yeah, and this is the thing, is like, especially when you're painting mountains and deserts, it's like there's something about the scale of the work. Yes, for
sure.
So plein air, I'm doing small, and then I'm using those plein air studies to make larger work. So yeah, I mean, 120 by 90 is a pretty good size. I'm not sure in inches, do a quick conversion, but yeah, so 120 centimeters by 90 is a fairly
2.54 centimeters to the inch. So whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever that
by,
is.
Yeah.
Have 45. A little pop up in the in the thing there. So that's a fairly standard size for my landscapes.
Yeah, that's nice. That's a good size.
Yeah, but commission, so I do some stuff for hotels as well. I get commissions from hotels to take some of the work, and those can be bigger. So I actually did a 3 meter by 1.5 meter. It was actually a coastal seascape.
Yeah, that's quite large.
Yeah, it's pretty big. That was a tough one to do in the studio, because I've got my easel is like a crank easel.
Yeah.
So I've seen like 3 Hughes easels in people's studios since I've been here. I'm like, this would be nice. I'd like one of these. But I have this crank easel, so I had this riggy system, so it wasn't, because it was on board as well. So I was on one side and it was starting to wobble, and then the other side it was starting to wobble. So I just made this jimmy system with a couple of extra like student easels, which I'd propped up either side. But yeah, so that was for a hotel in Fujairah. So yeah, I mean, these big commissions do come through, every so often, and that's what keeps me able to really be in the market there.
And is most of that through word of mouth and or your website, social media?
It's a mix. So I work with some, like, I guess I'd be kind of close to interior design firms, but art consultants. So they have that border of like, are you doing interior design or are you an art consultant? So they kind of do a bit of both. There's a lot of that in Dubai, a lot of crossover in companies. So I will work with them. So they have like a roster of local artists, again, mainly abstract, but every so often somebody wants something representational, and who do you go to? It's like,
there's one person in the country.
Right. So
Matt Ryder.
Yeah.
He's the guy.
Like I said, there are other artists there. It's just I like, a lot of people will work, they'll have full-time jobs and then do it on the side. And so I'm in this fairly unique situation of I'm able to do this full-time, and I've made this reputation for myself up to a point of being the representational artist for landscapes and florals. Right. But like I said, I mean, it's not a big enough market, so I need to expand out, which is why I'm in the US. So yeah. So it's even in terms of collectors. I've sold work to people in the US, and I'm shipping and whatever else, and it's so expensive to go through that process. It's like I need to have an established base here.
Yeah. So, much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't have to deal with it. What do you think the biggest hurdles are for you of being a plein air? And I mean, you don't just do plein air, you do studio work, which is actually, I love your studio work.
Thank you.
What do you think the biggest obstacles are for you being in a country where you're the main Plein air painter?
Well, it's education. I think you know it's just like it's getting people to understand it's a viable art form. You know, it's not just something that people do as a weekend hobby. You know, some of the best paintings out there are either started plein air or are plein air. You know, it's like you don't get that color anywhere else. So I mean, for me, it's educating people on the fact that this is something that is like I said, a viable art form. And for me, like I feel like it's important. You know, I'm documenting the landscapes of the UAE.
Right.
You know, these are okay. We can take photos, but these are paintings of this region, which people aren't doing. So yeah, I mean, it all comes down to education.
It seems like a book to me, right there.
Right.
But no, really, the landscapes of the UAE.
Yeah. It's something I've thought about.
I could see that.
Yeah.
You know, honestly,
I actually contacted the Dubai Cultural Authority, and we talked about it for a while, and then it went cold, and yeah, like look, I have a lot of plans. You know, I think there's a lot that can be done, and because it's such a new market, you know, it's amazing really to kind of be at that forefront of it.
Yeah, it's crazy actually. I mean, it's you know, the whole area is a desert.
Yeah,
which you know,
plenty to paint.
Yeah, there's plenty to paint, and we, you know, at least in our world, we love the desert. We all want to go out and do it, and you know, I could see that becoming something
for sure. And like even with everyone who's taken the workshops, you know, so many of those are then going out on their own, and you know, they're actually going out painting. And I've set up a plein air group, and you know, we get together sometimes and go out and paint. You know, COVID has definitely slowed a lot of that down, but you know, now things are starting to pick up again, and everyone's kind of grouping together. So you know, they're students, but some of them are pretty good. And you know, there's a couple of artists who have kind of come out of it that I think within a couple of years will definitely.
Well, you have to do that. I mean, to make it more viable in the sense of a culture, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A community. I think you have to continue to. It's almost incumbent upon you to do these teaching.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the gallery thing, and you know, talking about challenges, is you know, if you've got a group of artists, it's much more likely that galleries are going to be like, okay, well, this is actually something, as opposed to you know, somebody coming in where the work doesn't fit whatsoever with the gallery. You know, once there's more people doing it, which of course the workshops are, not everybody is going to want to be a professional artist, but you know, it's all goes back to the education of, you know, part of my workshop is I do marketing. You know, I do a little session on talking about how to market yourself and brand yourself and all of this stuff. And, you know, it's just letting people know that it is possible to do it. And once those people, or, you know, a few of those start to get together and, you know, push it a little bit further and actually take it more seriously, then that's when it becomes a movement, so to speak. Or, you know, we do a group show and then it starts, everyone gets their individual shows, and, you know, it just grows from there. But it's such a youthful market. Like it's tough. Like it is tough.
Yeah. Is Dubai a youthful market?
Like the community?
Yeah, exactly. So, that I don't know.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, predominantly. So like there's no, well, actually I think it was last year they brought in a retirement visa, but that was the first time you could live retired in the UAE. So you have to be working. You have to have a working visa. So that, of course, pretty much puts anybody over 60, 65, you know, out of the market. So they have changed it. But, I mean, honestly, Dubai is a very expensive place to retire.
I would think,
Yeah.
And do you speak Arabic?
Very little.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of ashamed to say because, you know, I have lived there a long time, but it's very much, it's an expat community. Yeah. You know, so Dubai, well, the U.A.E. is made up of 80% expats. All business, all trade is done in English. You know, so.
What about your kids? Are they learning both languages?
So my eldest, she's only 4.5, but she takes Arabic in school. So yeah, she can speak more than me. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's part of the curriculum, and it should be. You know, it's such a useful language to have now. Right. So, but yeah, I mean, going back to the community, it's like 25 to 50 is pretty much
that makes sense.
Yeah, the expat community.
And you enjoy living in?
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as I've talked about, it can definitely be frustrating as an artist there, but the city itself is great.
Yeah, it's
beautiful. There is so much.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Like as a landscape painter, there's just so much to get out. Like it's super safe for my kids. Right. We have a good quality of life there. My wife loves it. I love it most of the time. But yeah, it's when I come somewhere like Arizona and I just see the arts community here,
right?
Like that gets frustrating because it's like, I want this here. It shouldn't have to come all the way here,
right.
But so like maybe I should just sub it in pop art and abstract. Then I wouldn't be frustrated, right?
That has probably had to gone through your mind at one time or another, hasn't
it? I'm pretty strong-headed on what I do. Yeah. So I mean, like I've had that illustrative caricature
right, exactly.
pass, so I've kind of gone through that, and it's like, and I got known for that, and it's taken a long time to rebrand myself,
right?
As a painter, and I mean I get asked to do stuff like that all the time, but right. I'm very much committed. Look, I'm doing something here, and I want, if I'm doing a commission, I want it to be, I want people to look at it and know it's mine. Yeah. I want them to...
Your field, your voice.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So, I mean, it's tempting, of course, when things are slower, paintings aren't selling, especially during COVID. Right. It was like I got a few of those requests come in. I was like, no, just stick to your guns. But, I know what I'm doing is the right path. So, and if I go off on a tangent, then it's very hard to come back from that, right. Especially somewhere like there, right. Because I know that those commissions would they'd come very easily, especially those pop art commissions and just abstracts. Yeah, like, I mean, the request I get is, it will come through. It's like, we want a landscape painting. So we got in touch with you. Here's the sort of thing we're looking for. And it will be just a complete abstract landscape painting. I'm like, did you have a look at my website at all? Or, yeah, so look, it is what it is, but yeah, I'm sticking to my guns. I'm pretty adamant. I mean, I started painting florals like 4 or 5 years ago, and that's been a strong market for me as well. But I love it. So now I'm 50-50. I paint landscapes and I paint florals, and it's I'm very much like that's it for now.
And they are a landscape in a way.
As I said at the very start, it's all the same. When it comes down to painting, it's just pigment, canvas, edges, values, right? I mean, it sounds very simple, but, it very much shouldn't matter what you're painting. So, yeah, I mean, it's like florals and landscapes I see as very similar. You get those soft edges, you get the hard edges, right. You get, like, one of the strongest things that I push for in my work is reflected light and transparency and, just bounced light and this sort of stuff going around. So I'm always drawn to lighter color flowers, white roses or yellow roses, because you can get those reflections that I'm putting into the rocks. I'm using the same techniques that I'm doing a bounced light coming into a rock off a canyon wall as I am, a leaf bouncing up into a petal. So, it's all the same. Same, but different.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what Ed Mell did too. I don't know if you're familiar with his work as much, but I mean,
very much.
He did all these great landscapes, and he wanted to try something else, and he goes to flowers. Right. You get the same thing: values, light, transparency.
Yeah. And his work is so stylized, right? I mean, is that one of his flowers that's out there? Yeah. The big, it's like a tulip.
Well, I think it was a cactus flower that you saw.
Okay.
We'll go look at those in a minute.
Yeah, but it's instantly recognizable as an Ed Mell.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and that's how it should be. And this is why I'm saying, if we go off on a tangent, then your work
that's
just dissipates.
Right. You lose your voice.
Yeah.
And I always look for the voice in the artist. That's what I'm looking for.
Right.
I'm not looking for somebody who can sell.
Yeah.
I want somebody who can sell their own voice.
Right. So you should be able to look at one of my flower paintings and one of my landscapes and see the same palette.
Yeah, because
the palette is exactly the same. Brushstroke is the same. Just subject matter is different. Yeah. So that's what I aim for. It's hopefully we're getting there.
Yeah.
I dabble in portraits every so often, but it's still the same thing. You know, it's representational. So yeah.
So where do you see yourself in 10 years? You're still young.
Getting older. So well, I mean, I'd like to be in a position where I'm spending more time here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be very surprised if I'm still in the UAE in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
You know, I think, especially with the kids and stuff, you know, it's a great place for them to grow up, but at the same time, you know, it's a little sheltered. It's a little perfect.
Right.
So I think they might disagree with me, but I'd like to get them somewhere else, you know, when they're a little bit older.
Yeah.
And get them back in reality a little bit. You know, it is so. Yeah, it's so different there to anywhere else. You know, it's very sheltered, and even though we try and live, you know, a very normal life, there are definitely elements of it where it's like,
yeah,
you know, you wouldn't be saying that or doing this if you were elsewhere, you know. So yeah, so I'd like to. I mean, most likely we'll be back in Europe, probably in Ireland, but as I say, definitely working more in the US. I mean, I'm already booked in to come and teach here again next year. I'm back out in October, recording a video, like a demo video with Streamline. So yeah, I mean, I'm marking my calendar with dates where I'm coming back.
Right.
So
here's your biggest issue: you have 12 years painting the desert. The desert is in you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be tough going back to Europe for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I don't know what it is, but once you get it in you, it's, you know, those rocks and the colors and the lights. And
it's crazy. I mean, if you'd have asked me, you know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if I thought I'd be, like, I'm an Englishman from the Midlands living in the Middle East painting the deserts. I mean, it's ridiculous, really. But, you know, I wouldn't have had a clue that this is what I was going to be doing. But as soon as I got out there, that was it. I was sucked in, and you know, I feel it when I'm here. Yeah, you know, there's something there, you know, and it's everywhere here. You know, I've already planned out 20 paintings, and you know, I've only been here a couple of weeks, and it's like, and
you've been in Scottsdale. You haven't even really been in the desert. Now you get to be in the desert in Tucson.
Yeah. So I went up to Superstition.
Oh, nice.
But stuck pretty close to the car park. You know. And then I was out at Salt River yesterday, and went out to where's the other place? McDowell Mountain Reserve.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but all of these places, like, I've parked the car and then just kind of gone almost a few yards to paint. Right. Like in Dubai, I was saying I'm hiking. You know, I'm out an hour and a half.
Right.
Like, I haven't even begun to explore here yet, and it's there's a lot to do. I mean,
there's so much. There's more stuff than you can even get.
Yeah, it's a lifetime of work. Yeah, right? So
plus you haven't been to places like the Navajo Nation, and you know, they're up in that area, Canyon de Chelly, Monument Valley, which are mind blowing, or Utah up in Moab, and all these different places.
Yeah, haven't been to the Grand Canyon yet.
Oh yeah.
So the Grand Canyon is pretty close to here. I was going to go over the weekend, and then I had one day off, and I was like, you know what, just today, I'm just going to relax. So I'd been teaching all week, and then I was up kind of running around this week. So, a 3 hour and then 3 hour back drive with 4 hour painting in the middle. It was, it was going to be a push, but next time.
Plus you got this, which is stressful.
Yeah. I feel less stressed now. Now we've had a chat. That's okay. Until I see it, and then I'll be feeling stressed again.
But it is stressful for an artist to, you know, especially from a different country, to come over and go, okay, you know, you know, what if this guy's really a jerk? You know, what if you and I don't get along, and you go, oh my God, I'm screwed.
And it's not. I mean, it's not just that. I mean, not wanting to sing praises too much while I'm here, but obviously your gallery has a very good reputation. You have some of the best artists, and it's like it's a big opportunity for me to be in here, and I understand that. And
well, you got the chops. That's the key. Well, everything comes down to the chops, really, in some respects. I mean, it's being a good human being is important as well, but you know, just having the ability to. I mean, now that I've met you too, it's clear. Right. I mean, you've got that passion and that push, and that's just, I'm not going to do anything but that. this is who I am.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I love that.
I'm very, very stubborn. It's like I'll get this idea. Yeah. My wife thinks I'm nuts. Like, yeah. I mean, she's the most supportive wife you could ever ask for because, I mean, she's like, sorry, you want to go to America and sell your paintings in America, and you want to go and paint America, and you want to go and teach in America. So yeah, this is what I want to do, and this is like I have this idea, and it's definitely going to work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think, I do have a pretty clear vision for myself, and I don't see why living somewhere else should affect that.
No.
So yeah,
clearly isn't.
Yeah.
Well,
hopefully not.
Yeah. So, no, clearly isn't. Yeah. I mean, it clearly isn't. It doesn't. Yeah. I mean, you set your goals and you're achieving them.
We're certainly on our way. So yeah, no, it's great. And like this, as I said, this trip it's been eye-opening, and just like everyone who I've met here, it's just been so welcoming and like so quick to introduce this person or this person. And like, I was invited up to the Oratory, which unfortunately I couldn't go because again, like, I mean, it's a trip to LA is
right.
I mean, it's a couple of days,
right?
But, just having those opportunities, just and it's because I'm here, and that's the thing. And I think a lot of it comes down to how serious are you? And it's like, I'm pretty serious about what I'm doing. I'm making a trip, 23-hour flight over here with
carrying
paintings, and 2 workshops sold out and lined up, and gallery meetings and podcasts and all this stuff. Right. It's like, I'm pretty serious about what I'm doing. So it's awesome to be here.
Have you met any artists that work that you hadn't seen before that was particularly compelling?
So I met Amory Bowling.
Mm-hmm.
So she I was introduced to her through Emily at Raymar Panels, close friends.
Yeah.
And she has this amazing gallery space down on I'm not sure of the actual road, but the gallery road in Scottsdale.
Yeah, Old Main.
So she's just up from
she's
Legacy Gallery and all of these.
She's very talented.
So she's kind of taken me under her wing while I've been here, which has been amazing. I didn't know her before.
Yeah.
But yeah, met her in a gallery, and then we went out painting. But yeah, I mean, her work's brilliant.
Yeah.
And she has this really unique situation of she's got a storefront gallery with a studio at the back, and just obviously very high quality work.
Right.
But she's able to paint in her own space.
Right.
And it's just I mean, that's great, I think. And it's such a prominent area as well. But yeah, I mean, like I saw my first Glendine painting in a private collection.
Yeah.
So Glenn's one of the reasons I actually started painting the West. So
that's awesome. Are you hearing this, Glenn?
I sent him a message. I told him I was coming in. So his landscapes were
he's genius.
Yeah, that's what got me into his work. It's just more than anything his ability to paint green, but that desert green.
Yeah,
I was like, how are you doing that? I have no idea what palette he's using, but it's just very subtle. And the image that the painting that I saw, which was in this collection, was just a small little piece. But I was in front of that they had a good collection there, but I was in that for longer than anything. And I saw some Matt Smith's work in person, which again, I mean, I didn't realize how much texture he was using in that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's been great to be here because I'm seeing images online of these artists, and
now you get you can look at their brushstrokes. Yeah. You can put your face up 2 inches from it, and
so I'm out there with Josh Elliott in a minute, just staring at his work. But so I mean, Josh,
and there's a bunch of others too.
G. Russell Case. I mean, I saw his work in Legacy actually.
Yeah, we have Gregory Hull here, who's amazing. Yeah. Ray Roberts as well. And just there's some amazing plein air painters that are
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, G. Russell Case is just, for me, like his work is just, again, how subtle it is, just how muted down it is. And then he has those pops of yellow, like the full colors coming through.
Yeah.
But like with Josh's work, like Josh, I feel kind of paints it in a similar subject matter to what I am.
He does.
He's kind of getting down. Yeah. Into the mountains, and
his favorite things are boulders.
Yeah, right.
They're his favorite things,
and you can see, like, I mean, how much reflected light he's getting into his paintings and stuff. So yeah, seeing some of his work here is pretty exciting. And of course, Mr. Dixon,
yes,
and Mark Majori. Well.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's my first time seeing a Mark Majori in person as well. So.
Not bad, huh?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, he knows what he's doing, right?
Yeah, he really does. Yeah, he's a wonderful artist. So I like his work, not only as to deal with it when I occasionally get them from Mark, but I also, I believe in collecting work that you believe in. And so, I like to see it. And that one's a little looser, which I like too.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's certainly, I mean, it's looser and the paint is a little thicker than I thought, actually, because I thought he paints like almost illustrative style.
He can do very tight if he wants something, but he also has the ability to just let it rip.
Yeah.
So.
And there you go, a Frenchman painting in the desert.
Yeah,
again.
And you're not my first person that's British in my gallery.
Oh, is that right? Oh no, you have Jill Carver.
That is correct.
Yeah. So I mean, I love Jill's work.
Yeah.
She's got a show coming up.
She does.
Well,
in a couple of weeks.
Do you have any of her work?
Oh, I have a few.
Okay,
but I'm about to have a lot more.
Right.
She's been working on it for a year.
Yeah. So I mean, there's somebody who's come over from Blighty and just got the
same
desert
thing
in her soul, right?
Yeah,
so,
same exact thing, and just said I got to do it.
Yeah.
And a great teacher, and if you haven't met her or talked to her, I'm sure you guys will be reaching out.
Yeah, no, I haven't met her. I also sent her a message just saying I was going to come down here. There's a connection there, I think, but
for sure.
Yeah, I haven't met her yet.
Yeah,
but, I mean, on these trips that I have planned, I'm definitely going to be meeting some more of these guys. So, yeah.
So, any words of wisdom as we kind of wrap this up to maybe artists that are struggling out there, or maybe have been told they can't do it and then realize maybe they can, because you were kind of told that, it sounds like, really early on.
I mean it did take me a long time to kind of figure it out, and I went through painting, like I said, a whole bunch of things before I realized that landscape and florals and just representational work was where it was at. I don't know, I mean, if I'm giving advice, it would just be to stick with it. I mean, I don't want to give any deep and meaningfuls, but I do think that, having somebody who supports your work, like having a supportive partner, is, for me, has been absolutely essential to what I do, you know. So finding somebody who believes in what you're doing as much as you do is definitely the right choice. So, no, I mean, nothing too deep, but I mean, sticking with it is definitely the way to go. And, don't be afraid to reach out as well.
I think that's a big one right there.
Yeah, just taking a chance. And, I didn't know where this would lead. I certainly hadn't anticipated we would be sat here doing the podcast.
Right.
And even when I actually reached out, it's just you came straight back and like, yeah, definitely. And let's do a podcast while you're here.
Yep.
Like,
Yep. Well, I looked at your art,
Right.
That's the first thing. Okay, let me see what this guy's got.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
there we go.
this guy can paint. Oh, where is he? U.A.E?
What's he doing all the way over there?
Dubai? Right. Yeah, this desert's a little different, but that's still the desert.
Yeah, exactly. Desert's desert. It's all sand.
Desert's desert.
Sand and mountains.
Yeah. And smell.
Yeah.
There's a smell to the desert.
Yeah. Actually, so we had some rain the other day, and
that's creosote. That's what you smell.
Yeah.
That whatever it is, it's just that creosote.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So and that's what gets deep down inside of you, and doesn't get out. And if I go and live in Europe, that's definitely going to be a problem.
Oh yeah, so, you'll be over here a lot. I have no doubt.
Exactly. Well, it's closer. So I mean,
it's so much closer.
Yeah, I mean, this journey was it's a push. It's like 23 hours in a mask on a plane. Yeah. Not so much fun.
That's commitment though. It's
Absolutely.
part of the process.
Absolutely.
It's like
I'm already lined up. Yeah, I was saying in October I think that flight is even a little bit longer.
Yeah. So this next October you'll be back.
Texas.
Yeah.
But
it's a little further away from us.
Yeah.
Where in Texas is it?
Austin.
Yeah.
I'm planning to bring some work, and then ground shipping is definitely an option
yeah.
as well. So I'll be bringing some work when I come back through, for sure.
And people can visit you on your website too, which is just your name, right? M-A-T-T?
No, it's actually, so it's riderscanvas.com.
Huh.
So my Instagram is just Matt Ryder.
Oh, maybe that's what I've been on. No, but I've been to your website too. Okay.
All right.
I think I just looked it up via your name, and then there's a couple different links.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't go to the magician. There is a Matt Ryder magician, but I think he got the original website. But
you'll know it's not him when there's no paintings there.
Yeah. Yeah, so just riderscanvas.com. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff on there.
Yeah, and you did a little beautiful video I watched too.
Yeah, I mean that video also actually has been pretty important, I think, to kind of getting my name out here.
Yeah, it's a pretty professional, beautiful.
Yeah, so again, that was I was actually taking a workshop when that came around in the UK with Rosemary & Co. So they're the people who make my brushes, but they run workshops. So I was taking a workshop. I'd taken one with Jeremy Lipking. That was the first workop I ever took.
Was with Jeremy?
Lipking. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, that gives you an idea of
he's phenomenal.
Okay, I'm not just going to learn. I'm going to learn. Right?
Yeah.
But this one was Casey Barr's workshop. So it's a figurative painter predominantly. But there was a videographer who was there who was filming for Rosemary & Co. And I got on really well with him. And I was like, I'd seen some of his stuff before. He worked with East Oaks Studio out here, Michael Klein and some of those guys. So he's doing all the videography. So I just asked him, I was like, "Be interested in coming out to Dubai?" And of course, yeah, why not? So so I basically paid for him to come over, and put him up in my house, and made the video, and it's a promo tool, and it's because, as I said, so much of what I'm doing is trying to educate people on what's actually not just what representational painting is in this region, but also what's actually there. So like I took Joe Hawkins, his name is, so I took Joe out to the desert, the mountains. We filmed in all these amazing locations, a little bit of painting, but an awful lot of just kind of going around and telling a story. And, I wanted it to have a cinematic feel, and I wanted it to just look like how I feel my brand should be, which is just well put together, solid, have a dramatic cinematic feel. And that's just what he did. And like his work was brilliant on that. So we had this great little video, which is on the website. And that has been, even in just kind of getting into some of the parks where I paint. So there's some I'm going backwards now, but there's some protected areas in the U.A.E. which nobody gets access to. But one of the park rangers had seen my video through Instagram, so he was following my account, which I had no idea. Had seen the video and then invited me to go and paint in this protected park.
Wow, nice.
Which was just stunning. So, I mean, even little things like that, it's been really useful to have.
Yeah.
It was an expense and it's a cost, but I've got that forever now.
Yeah, and if you don't promote yourself and your brand, and this is for all artists out there listening, who's going to do it for you, right?
Exactly.
You may have a gallery that is really, loves your work and does the hard lifting.
Yeah.
But you may not. Most don't.
Yeah.
Most of them don't understand it or don't do it.
Yeah.
So, you got to be proactive.
Yeah. And this is it. I mean, like having that confidence, I think, in your own work is essential. So, I mean, if you don't believe in your own work and
who's going to?
If you can't sell your work, then nobody can sell your work.
Right.
So, so that was great. So having that was good on the website.
Yeah.
So there you go.
That's what I saw.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you, Matt. We're going to go look at some paintings because I know you want to do that.
Yeah.
And then we maybe do a couple little other things too while we got you here because it's hard to get you here.
Yeah. Well, you have to drag me away from these paintings
first. There's more out in the Maynard-Dixon Museum you can go look at too.
Well, look, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Like really, it's amazing to have been able to do this. So.
Yeah. Our first meeting on a podcast. I love that. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I represent Matt now, and we have his work. Right now we just have the florals, but the desert stuff is coming, and he's going to do a lot of Arizona stuff for us as well.
It's on the way.
He just has to do his job, which takes a little time, effort, and energy. But we do actually have some of the floral paintings now that he drug all the way from Dubai.
They were very safely packed in my
yeah, they're
suitcase.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So,
all right,
yeah.
Matt Ryder. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks.